it's not just about technology. It's about generational change, too. And I know that there's a video feed here, I think, to a side group here that's apparently students are here from the region are here. And I hope they're listening here, because this millennial generation, think of this as all the young people from about age 30, in their 20s and teens. This generation, the millennial generation, is really going to be one of the most amazing generations of American history, potentially, I will predict. And not just me. And one of the things you got to know about this generation, it is the biggest generation in American history. Everyone thinks, well, that's the boomers. Oh, wait, let's not get there yet. This is, by the way, a demographic thing they call the population pyramid. And it used to be that you'd have old people at the top, young people at the bottom, men on one side, women on the other side. And it used to be a totally perfect pyramid because people would get born and they'd die off in a nice, orderly way, and essentially there'd be one wise woman at the top. And that was until the boomers came along and said, we're not going. And so they're screwing up the pyramid. I'm actually a late boomer, so I can actually say that. Well, we all know about the boomers, and there's, how are we going to deal with Social Security? That's a lot of people, but what people have not focused on is the millennials. Boom. That generation is bigger than the boomers. They are essentially the children of the boomers and immigrants. And the biggest generation in American history. And they are, by 2015, they will all be adults. They will be driving the workforce. They will be driving the consumptionist economy. They will be the guts of the American economy. And they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Now, you think, well, I was a young guy. I know what that was about, or a young woman. I get what that is. Not true. Every generation, very different, very different. They have a personality. It's very different, comes of age, when, what was going on in the world, what they think and how they feel. This is a good example of this. This is essentially a Time magazine cover back when Generation X, which is the generation between the boomers and millennials. Generation X was, this is in the 80s. They were kind of a much more individualistic generation. They're very entrepreneurial. They did a lot of great things. But look at it. They wore a lot of black. They didn't look at each other. And there's probably a lot of you in there, so I'm not. But this is the millennials. The millennials, on the other hand, and anyone who has kids in this age, they're just hugging, and they're all over each other, boys, girls. You can't do anything without 20 of them. And anyhow, totally different personality. So anyhow, when you think about that seriously, there's a bunch of ways to think about this generation, and I do a whole talk on this thing, but I'll give you just 5 things to think about. One is it's the most diverse generation in American history. 40% of them are from different races. They do not see the difference in races. They don't see the difference. They really don't. They're over that, and they can't really figure out why everyone's so uptight about it. They're the most endowed generation. We kind of wring our hands about the education system. They are by far they grew up in the most affluence. They've grown up in the most, been given tons of opportunities in a way that, clearly there's a crew, there are groups that are struggling in that, but in general, as a generation, incredibly they're the most global generation. Like, at least 25% of all college kids now do study abroad at some point. In elite schools, it's like 60% of people in elite schools now go abroad. Incredible kind of access to the world. They're extremely civic-minded, unlike generations before them. Can do, into politics, love, getting into that. And ultimately, optimistic, can-do folks. Really different generation, really powerful generation. And, of course, born into this world. This is the crew that they don't even get. Like, what was a dial-up telephone? Don't even know. Anyhow, it makes it. This is where they're coming of age. Now, not just Americans. And this just to give you a little sense of what's happening all over the world. This is happening all over the world. And here's a little fact. You want to understand what's going on in the Middle East? Look at this next slide. This is the millennial. Actually, this isn't just the millennials. This is everyone under age 30 in these countries. Well, let's think. In the United States, 41% of our population is under 30 right now. Basically, the millennials, and then the little kids that we haven't figured out what to call them yet. Because you don't really understand what a generation is until they kind of come of age. So, wow, Tunisia had that big revolution, right? Wow, they had 51%. Interesting. Well, there's a lot that's happening all over the Middle East. Interesting. Libya, that's a problem place. Boom. Wow, 61% under 30. Egypt, wow, they had that revolution. Wow, interesting. Isn't that interesting? Jordan's been having trouble. Syria's been having trouble. Iraq's having trouble. And Yemen's a big place, right? Yeah, 75%. 3/4 of the country's under 30. Tools and demographics. Apply it to the world, you can see the world in real change.